Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reavercast, a podcast about Age of Sigmar made by two guys excited to have a podcast about Age of Sigmar. I am David Ratledge, your host, and as always with me is my co-host, Chris Tobin.
Good morning. We are coming to you from the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina, representing the Carolina Reavers. We're a fairly new team and a fairly new podcast, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, today's topic, we're going to be getting into a soggy farewell, but before we do that, Dave, what you been doing? You've been playing games? You've been doing hobbying?
I wish I could say I've been playing games. No, it's the end of the school year, and so my life is busy with tying things up, going to things to celebrate the seniors graduating and doing all sorts of activities there. In between that, when I have any energy left, it's been hobbying. I've been still trying to finish up and make progress on my Soul Blight army. I got the second game with them physically on a tabletop today against one of our teammates going into Lumineth, and what I've learned is that I am just bad at fighting Lumineth, and also maybe just bad with the... I don't know. I went from Iron Jaws and playing a Kragnos, Cabbage, Big Pig, just like fast. I have maybe 11 models on it, and I'm just like, I knew my threat ranges. I knew what to do. I only had like 8 units, so it was really easy to figure out what I was doing. And now I have to completely retune my brain into what I'm doing. And I mean, certainly this is going to be a better army, he said with great hope in his voice, than what I had previously. At least, hopefully, more competitive, because the Iron Jaws were good, but very feast or famine. And then to any of these new lists, just complete famine. I can't imagine taking big cabbages that can't be obscured into what I'm sure is going to be a new cities meta, or into, 20 ethereal snakes from daughters. Yeah. So I'm still getting my feet under me. I'm figuring it out. I'm getting caught out is what I have to say. I feel clunky. I don't like it. Every person who has played a new army, I hope, can understand, or I'm just too smooth brain to do this, and I'll have to figure that out. But God, I can't play the Baronites right. Everyone says it's, it's a big block of cav. You got to learn how to position them. You got to learn how to do them. But also, these are supposed to be some survivable dudes. They're a perfect swamp, but they're just 400 points of garbage most games that I play them. And it just is so sad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Oh, well, like, it's always that, like, I position them a little bit for, like, well, yeah, they'll take a hit if a hit comes. And in today's game, they got charged by Dawn Riders, who just happened to move 18. So I thought I was safe, and I was wrong, because you're not used to things moving 18.
Yeah.
And then come in, get charged, just immediately hammered by Dawn Riders on the charge. Full group, give me the business, and in there with Lyrior, so 2 activations, just cleaning me up. It's bad.
Yeah, I learned the screen out your cav game with the bull centaurs and throwing enough infantry up in front of them and kind of going slowly while I ramp up the DPP, and just figuring that whole thing out of, as much as I'd love to go pedal to the metal, like, nah, we need to screen them out, play it correct. And yeah, it's not easy. It's not something that'll come straight to you, but once you learn it, oh man, it does feel better. It does feel better.
Well, I'm ready for it to feel better. I'm tired of this shit.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on with me, is rebuilding my entire brain on how to change entire like list functionality. But enough about my plight. What about you?
Literally the same. Literally the same. I got my first ever game in with a new army of Skaven. And oh man, I love the rattlings. Oh, they're so much
Oh my
fun.
gosh.
Oh,
Just rolling to have 50 some shots into somebody is
yes.
it's got to feel good.
Oh my goodness. What is it? 18d6 attacks?
Mhm.
There ain't enough dice. I got large hands, but they're not big enough for that many shooting attacks.
Yeah, that's where TTS
Oh,
always plays a big role in being able
yeah.
to just hammer all those dice in there without working at it.
But yeah, no, instead of the 3d6 per, I went with the Scourgers, which is only 2d6 per.
Pathetic.
Yeah, yeah, but no, I really enjoyed that. Played the Scryer battle formation and did pretty well with screening. Figuring out how to place the null holes is a whole new thing. I'm
Oh, that's an entire thing. Yeah.
going from Gits where I just place down the Loon Shrine to then every other army I've played having no faction terrain to now Skaven where I spawn terrain. It's like, oh no, what do I do? Lots of thinking ahead and, you know, also just remembering, oh, I move a lot. I've got a lot of tricks. It's a lot of tricks that I'm not used to
A
having.
lot of tricks. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it feels really good to be on the side giving the debuffs for once. That
Yep,
stupid
I
stinky
bet.
bell, man. Holy, the -1 to wound aura.
Yep.
Oh, it's
And
wonderful.
13 inches is somehow bigger than 12 inches, not by one. It doesn't like a 13-inch circle versus a 12-inch. And yes, I understand it's 2 inches difference, but still. No, it's huge. A 13-inch R is giant.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Had a whole ton of fun doing that. And like I said, I went with a slightly shooty list. I had some Storm Fiends. I don't know how I
Mhm.
feel about them. I don't have a strong feeling on them. Their shooting was pretty solid. Um,
Oh, they can be real swingy.
yeah, very much so. But I really, really just loved the randomness of the lightning cannon. Oh
Oh,
man.
you brought a lightning cannon.
Hell yeah,
Think what,
dude.
120 points?
It's something really stupid cheap like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely worth it.
To where
Yeah.
you just say, "Yep, whatever I hit is mortals." Like
Yeah.
and then having the little hero nearby to where it's an additional 6 attacks just for having the hero nearby, but then
You
any
can
ones
do
you
mortals
rolled,
to
do
yourself.
mortals
Yeah.
to yourself. Yeah. It's so much fun, dude. Oh my goodness.
I feel like that's a very you list.
Yes. Yes, yes. But yeah, no, I had a whole lot of fun with that. And like I said, just being on the side of doing the debuffing felt really good.
Yeah. I bet.
But yeah, no, same thing. I'm finally going through cleaning up my backlog of all my models that are, well, not all my models that aren't built, but a lot of my Skaven, going through my second Skaven Tide, getting that built up. Um, I got all of the Eshin units built from the new box, the new Spearhead box.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The Crixid and the Night Runners and all them boys, all the little Eshin sneaky boys, and got a list made up for them that I wanna run. Where it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a whole lot of fun. But yeah, that's my goal now. Is while we're waiting for this new GHB to drop, I'm kind of going through and getting other armies ready to be put on the table to see, kind of assess the situation of the new GHB and see what is going to be fun to play.
Yeah. And I think one of our teammates said it, but yeah, we're gonna have to be really careful about how much soggy things to put into a list right now. Is
Yeah.
the only struggle with list building right now is that you build something, feels great, next thing you know, maybe it's gone, maybe it's different. Like that's the struggle.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it in our little pre-record chat of another teammate and myself. We are kind of building lists excluding all soggy things.
Mhm.
So I didn't realize like how much I just used without any thought of it being from the Scourge of Ghyran. Like there's the whole set of artifacts for Skaven, the War Despot being like auto include in a lot of my lists, along with all those neat war machine things, like just changing things up and doing some testing of, oh, how is this going to play if and when this soul goes away?
Yeah. I guess I can't say too much about it just because when with the armies that I've played, Scourge Ghyran has played a limited to I guess I'll just say limited impact.
Yeah.
Which we'll of course get to later, but yeah, it doesn't hurt me much for better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, maybe that's our perfect segue. Maybe we've given ourselves, maybe we fed ourselves the perfect segue into getting into our main event of goodbye to Soggy.
That's right.
Be premature of 2 months, but maybe 1 month. It is just the end of May, so maybe two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because of course, what we got the new rules for 40K, and so there's a lot of confusion about, well, if that's happening this month, then it'll probably be July before Age of Sigmar refreshes. So
Right. I think they just dropped that pre-orders are going up next week for the Armageddon
mhm.
stuff. So that means that their new edition is right around the corner, 2-3 weeks out. And
Yeah,
they kind of like gave us the little touch of, we're going to be losing the Scourge of Ghyran rules in summer. And again, that is right around the corner for us. And like you were touching on, I'm not sure how much we're going to get as far as attention goes with 40K kind of stepping into the spotlight.
yeah. And at the Dallas Open, they of course previewed a game with the new rules. So I mean, they're pumping it up, they're getting it ready. So
3 games, I think, right?
oh, did they? That
Yeah.
I well then yeah, even more games than I thought.
Yeah.
They're pumping
Yeah.
it up even more. But enough of that 40K nonsense. We're here for the cool fantasy side of things. Let me preface this by saying what we're about to talk about is only vaguely scientifically based on actual numbers. A lot of it is personal feelings from us, personal feelings from our team, random thoughts that came up, some real perfect, concrete, absolute knowledge based information, but take it for what it's worth.
Yes, we did go ahead and reach out to our teammates, posted in our little Discord, hey, this is a plan for our future episode. Guys, please give us opinions on, what you played into, what you played primarily, your thoughts on both of those things, and, give us just a general overview of your feelings on the Scourge of Ghyran rules. And yeah, it's like Dave said, very factual.
Incredibly
Yes.
factual. Well, I think we can start. I don't want to start on a down note, but I feel like the one thing that can't go missed to start with a negative and then we'll go up was the loss. I think generally speaking, people's feelings about fourth edition and Scourge of Ghyran has been very positive.
Yeah. It very much, the good outweighed the bad, and it kind of refreshed things. We were a year into the edition and these new rules came along and really changed things up a little bit, shook up the meta and gave new ways for armies to play, new styles.
Yeah, it was a definitely a way to give new styles, new energy to the game beyond just switching points, beyond just changing the meta based off of how much point value things have. Because of course that can only go so far. I think we're kind of in a weird space with that right now, especially with new books coming out, some things feeling overtuned for some people, and them the balance being just to mess with points right now until new rules hit. So it was a great way to like freshen up the game, give it new energy, new command traits, artifacts, spell lores, prayers, sub factions, and just do a lot of good energy for armies that maybe hadn't had a meaningful update in a while, that their rules were getting a little stale, or perhaps people were getting tired of or not playing as much.
Books that were very early edition books, and also just armies that still had the indexes. It was a great way to supplement those, because as we progress further into the edition, we are seeing a little bit of a power creep with these new books. They're definitely putting a little bit more effort into them compared to the very early ones. And then even then, the Soggy rules also allowed for the index armies to have a leg up and kind of catch up as well. Give them a little sprinkling of some flavor while they wait for their book to come yet.
Yeah. And with even just like keeping them competitive, it was not just that, but again, giving them that flair, giving them like more of an energy. And I think we'll say more than once and mention the new books, but I feel like that's something that the most recent books have really hit is the coolness factor of like, it's not just here's the new rule for Doc. It's based off of like you having this like one superhero that's like leading this prayer, leading this like battle formation and giving these buffs as your guys get these blood rights and releasing these spells, releasing these energies. And so I feel like the Soggy thing did similar, of course not on such a wide scale, but it added to more thematic lists and allowed them to stay competitive while it did that.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, some of these Soggy rules became staples of competitive play, while others saw almost no use. This could kind of be described as a bit of a feast or famine, depending on your faction. And we've got a good number of examples of that to touch on later on when we go faction by faction and kind of go over what their Soggy rules were and what we saw a lot of what we did not see.
Yeah. I mean, we can even let's touch on either some of those. Let's see. I think even before we get to faction by faction, just our team, and of course we don't play every army on. Well, I take that back. Maybe amongst all of us, with all of the armies we have them all. But
Yeah.
our mains, I want to say, like Stormcast is a big main, and one thing that came up more than anything was Irridan.
Yeah, well, Irridan made Ruination pretty playable. The Iridan and the Beacon, our teammate that commented on this, really would love to see these two to become permanent additions. The Beacon was a amazing artifact designed for Stormcast. They rarely got good artifacts and traits, is what he said, and it was really cool to see one built for Stormcast.
Also mentioned more than once was Skaven. People think that Skaven was given one of the best boosts from this entire book. Formations, command traits, the bell.
I recently played with the Soggy Bell, and it's really neat. It gives a mobile, so it has its own spell to make itself become a null hole. So you then have a mobile null hole, and it's great for just kind of popping up your units that you're resurrecting. You're getting them back at half strength. That was a very useful thing to have. Still being able to heal, that was also a nice thing. But the bell toll is the very interesting thing, to where depending on the round number, you got a different buff, whether it was odd or even. In odd round numbers, you got an additional 2 inches to your move characteristic. And in even round numbers, which I really saw the strength of this in turn 2, you subtract 1 from hit rolls made by enemy units. So when you have the Grey Seer on Screaming Bell as well as the manifestation, you get a constant aura of just -1 to hit, -1 to wound on your units. It was pretty ridiculous. It really made turn 2 a go turn of, okay, now I move stuff up, come at me if you dare. And again, I played a little bit of a castle-y shooty kind of way to play. So the bell really, really like showed its worth in that one game. And again, that's me only playing one game with it, and I saw how game changing it really is.
Yeah, I don't think in any game I had against Skaven, when they brought the bell, it was any other kind.
Right.
In that one, I think it's one of those moments that the Soggy version of this thing completely outweighs the normal version. And that's what a lot of people said there's a lot of good units in here that taking one or the other version was kind of a toss up of what you felt like doing. But in certain circumstances, yeah, like as soon as the Soggy version came out, that's all that you saw.
Right. I also really enjoyed the heroic traits. Like I took Devious Underling because I had little foot heroes to buff my Scryer units. And that ward just giving, in addition to the -1 to hit, -1 to wound, giving my infantry units, which I took a good amount of clan rats, giving them just a 6-up ward as well. It's just, all right, I'm debuffing you, I'm buffing myself. That's a really cool little heroic trait, which again, like looking back, making a non-soggy Skaven list, I'm missing that. Like I'm already missing it after one game. And yeah, it's wild.
Are you rocking a 40 block of Skaven there?
I was not that gutsy.
Oh,
I ran 220s. So two MSUs.
run 140.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. If I've learned anything from Bram, shout out to Bram. Yeah, running one block of 40 and again giving them either that 6-up or 5-up and then throwing things on them. They're just the biggest pain in the ass. And this is coming from somebody playing Soulblight.
I watched a stream today where they ran 2 blocks of 40 and then a unit of 20.
Oh,
And same thing with the Devious Underling. And I was like, oh, I like that. I like the way he's thinking. That's pretty dirty. Because then he had the what is it? The Rattling guns, the 3d6 shooter dudes.
those are rattling guns, aren't they?
Yes, it is the Rattling guns. But yeah, having those Rattling guns behind huge bricks of clan rats, like
100 clan rats. Oh, did you kill some? Oh, wait, they're back.
oh yeah, I bring D3 back every turn. Like it's okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you killed that unit of 40. Here comes a unit of 20 right from that null hole. Like, and then again, the bell being a mobile null hole. It's super cool.
Yeah. Really, really good stuff coming out of them.
Also, the Brood Terror had pretty good praise from people. Soggy Brood Terror. I haven't gotten to play with it, but seems cool.
Yeah. I mean, we have had multiple people comment that Scourge of Ghyran going away, depending on what rules get taken away from the Skaven, is going to be challenging. It's going to be a hard time for them. So that is worth keeping in mind. And as you said, spending some time making army lists that don't have any of that. On the other side of the coin, from my own personal experience with Ironjaws, I will say that Scourge of Ghyran played little to no impact on me, other than monstrous traits. And sure, monstrous traits go for everybody. Everybody got monstrous traits back, and that was big. So the monstrous traits for me being able to move Mega Boss on Maw Crush, a 10-inch move once per game of my hero phase, having a threat range of 23 inches, maybe plus 3d6. That's fun. That's great. But again, everybody got monster traits back. Aside from that, the only Scourge of Ghyran changes to Ironjaws were a Soggy Pig version, which no one took because it was not priced correctly versus the normal pig version in order to make it playable until the latest change that came out in April.
Yeah.
A group of Weird Brute Rekkas that added +1 to hit in like kind of an aura to what was near them. They couldn't run and charge, but they could give +1 to hit, which I ended up taking a lot just because they helped counterbalance a lot of your nonsense of debuffs. So giving Ironjaws a better to hit is always good. But other than that, it was like formations that were used sometimes. One of them, of course, that let you Mighty Destroy us twice as opposed to just once. Again, that's kind of big, but no, it just had such a, I feel like it had a limited impact. And I feel like the same thing is true for Cruel Boys. Cruel Boys saw little to no love, and in fact, if you look at a lot of the data, Cruel Boys remain near the bottom of wins. Not that I'm blaming Soggy for that necessarily, but it just didn't do the uplift to them that you saw from a lot of the other factions.
When they hit the ground originally, they were unbeatable until people figured out how to beat them. They figured out the tricks of the Cruel Boys. Yeah. They figured out the tricks, and that was it. That pretty much, signed the death certificate for that faction.
That's what I feel like is the current state that we're in, is that all these books came out and everybody seems super powered. I think one, they're super powered, but two, I think we're just figuring out how to beat them. I feel like we
Yeah.
just have to get accustomed to this new thing, and I think that's the case. Sadly, Tobin and I don't have a wealth of knowledge of this from not playing it ourselves. But Ideneth was mentioned several times, and specifically the shark-focused detachment. Again, I never played IDK. Tobin also no, because you don't like elves, so I don't even have to ask you.
Nailed it. Although I will say I love the nautical theme, so that it got me close to playing IDK.
Like sharks, hate elves.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, we saw the shark detachment hit well, and unfortunately, it led to kind of only seeing two lists. You saw the scouting list that ran a shit ton of sharks, or the zombie shark list, which they never fought. It was kind of a playing keep away game. And another touch on the faction is the thralls were kind of a miss. Our player that plays the Deepkin says that the Soggy rules leaving kind of puts the army in a bad spot. This kind of highlights some of the fundamental design flaws in the army. Anytime the army's been competitive, it's only been spam lists. Spam eels, spam sharks.
I've never fought a Deepkin list that wasn't sharks and eels.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I've ever fought a single thrall, to my knowledge. It has always been, one group of reinforced eels, as many sharks as they possibly can fit in there, turtle,
Yeah.
and that's it. That is the only list I have ever fought, and it played well. I mean, that's the thing, is that it's the struggle with doing that, or, I mean, feeling a little lame about a spam list, because I think a lot of us who had a vision of an army in our head picture it to be like, oh, some infantry, some calves, some shooting, some ranged, and then like the meta grabs hold and you're like, oh, that idea is never gonna work. I need 8 sharks. I
Right.
need no infantry, I need 8 sharks and 6 eels. Ends up that's the perfect combination. And a turtle.
Yep. Gotta have the turtle.
Gotta have the turtle. Always the turtle. I hate that another one that I'm going to mention is another one. Scourge Ghyran had limited to no effect, but again, playing Soulbart right now, and I don't think there's a single Scourge Ghyran unit that I'm using right, or artifact, or trait, or ability.
Right.
The one really good one that they put in there that I do see and have used in a few, of course, is Immortal Ego, being able to re-roll a hit, a wound, and a save in a turn is awesome.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's so good. You see versions of it with different names in different armies. But otherwise I am not using any of the other Soggy rules for it. And sure, you'll see some lists, and I, as we covered in the intro, am definitely not competitive with this list yet, and maybe I don't have my head on straight. But you don't see a lot of it. It's at this point, it's become you're either like skeleton spam or 4 dry blood knights.
Right.
No Soggy rules in there. Occasionally, I think you might see a corpse cart, but I just don't know if the Soggy corpse cart is the one that you're seeing. Tell me about your excellent Gabos.
Right. Well, I've kind of touched earlier. I played Gloomspite Gits. That was my first full army going into Age of Sigmar, and the book really didn't hit home for me, which was a bit of a bummer. But the change in adding a new spell lore with the Soggy rules that kind of lifted the new units, the new Git mob units. it was really cool to see that synergy with it. And I didn't personally play that side of the army, but one of our teammates did. And he's kind of enjoying it the way it brings it up, kind of fills out a newer part of the faction and makes it more complete, more whole for being so new.
It just seems tough that it only got 2 new units.
Right. Well, it's not even the units, it's the spell lore, and then the battle formations really lifted the Git mob, which are all
Got
the
it.
wolf
Okay.
riders and all that sort of stuff like that. Because both of those things are kind of for the Git mob. Now, the two new war scrolls, the fanatics, I'm pretty sure the Loon Smasher fanatics were really making it in some lists, and it's a pretty rad little unit there. Again, not something that I've played with, but definitely did damage. To talk on something else that I did play in Destruction Time, Sons of Behemoth.
Oh, yeah.
They had some interesting additions. Again, it's an army that in this GHB was difficult to play, being so limited on your number of units and having these spread out objectives. It made it a little it very much made it not easy to score, and it kind of was a linear play style. But adding this Kraken Eater war scroll that can come in from the depths,
Mhm.
lurking in the waves beneath, that was really cool. It was really, really neat. And then also just having a long ranged projectile. It was only 3 attacks, but it was neat, and it had a little bit of a combination with one of their battle formations where you could double up on the number of ranged attacks.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. 2 things there from the Soggy rules that were put into use, but it was pretty difficult having that large of a base coming in from Deep Strike to where it made it rough. It made it rough to play, but it was still really cool, really neat, and gave the Kraken Eater something better to do than kicking an objective a little bit.
Yeah. On another Death Army note, the Night Haunt. And I know there's been a lot of Night Haunt players that are more upset, and I think have kind of forgot about Scourge of Ghyran things for the time being because they got their new book and it completely changed how the army worked. And from being this like scary first strike, like harvesting gnarly ghost army into kind of an army of an entire swamp. So I think a lot of people have forgotten about this. And to be fair, looking at a lot of the Soggy things, most of it I think is not necessarily forgettable, but not necessarily game changing. I think there's 2 or 3 out of all of it that stick out. One of them is just kind of the cool artifact, Tombstone of the Penitent, which I think is totally dope. You put it on an executioner. And Tobin, if you don't know what it does, is you get extra attacks up to a total of 8 extra attacks based off of the number of terrain features around the entire map that you contest.
Interesting.
So you can rock out a at maximum 13 attack execution around and just kind of rip. That's just a neat. I think that's a neat addition.
Yeah.
I don't think it had the biggest impact. It had some decent usage in there. It's out of the artifacts to give kind of one of your melee heroes to try and make a meaningful difference. I think that was one of the big ones. The one that I think the biggest push was going to be about is the Soggy Black Coach. The Scourge of Ghyran Black Coach, I think, did a lot of good in that you can teleport it. You can teleport any of your Night Haunt units, but it's able to charge 3d6. You're able to teleport in, and if someone leaves just a hero alone on their back line, you're allowed to teleport in, reasonably get a 9-inch charge in there, tie them up, wipe them off the board. In addition, you have the ability to turn them into a wizard. You can have an extra cast on the board, which, other than, of course, taking Lady Olander, which is an auto-include, but not Soggy, having an extra wizard gonna be good for you to get anything done. Apart from those, like I just don't think the other Soggy editions made a big enough change to be meaningful. It was a little bit, like I said in the intro, some flavor, some you could do this and run a little bit different of an army. And it was probably hit and miss on whether or not it made a big enough impact, other than just what you felt like doing and just kind of mixing it up.
If I remember correctly, the Night Haunt book came after the Soggy Rules, right?
Yes, Night Hunt book came, I want to say, somewhere around last December.
Right. From my understanding, that book really changed up the play style of Night Haunt.
100%. Yeah, like I said, it made them from like kind of scary first strike ghosts with decent recursion into like every unit's basically a swamp.
Yeah.
Which leans in great for Quicksilver Geist because now you got this swampy unit that can move in combat and move to like 14 inches,
Right.
which is great. But on the other side of things, yeah, I think a lot of people are upset about that and kind of, again, Night Hunt players kind of ignoring a lot of the Soggy things, or at least not thinking of them right now because they kind of got beat up with that book change. Same thing that I think OBR is spending some time struggling through right now. A lot of OBR players talking about how they don't like how the army changed, even though I think it's going to be really good, and how they're shutting down setting up units, which is huge. But we did have some feedback on those.
They had battle formations that were good. They had spell lore that was good. The spell lore specifically really standing out. All their spells being cast on 5s, being able to give a unit ignore the first point of damage on a 5-up and it's your unlimited spell, pretty solid. Adding one to the attacks characteristics, like putting that on your guard and just having a ridiculous amount of attacks on them. That was always something pretty brutal to try and skirt around, stay away from. As well as just giving some recursion to them, being able to heal or bring back models. It really was a solid addition for the army, as well as being just overall thematic.
Yeah, definitely.
But like you said, the it's kind of up in the air right now as to where they're landing. There's a lot of humming and hawing and good talk and bad talk about the army right now. So I'm very curious to see how they play out and where they land.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit time to shake out, but I think people will get used to the different play style, or maybe another type of player is going to pick them up and figure out how they kind of make them work.
Yep.
Tell me about Hellsmiths. Tell me about the big-headed dwarves. Give me the highs and lows.
The Hellsmiths came out and right away came out with some new Soggy rules. They were pretty solid. The biggest takeaway was, well, all right, I'll touch on a couple things. The domination force, really, really neat. The power through effect of giving your units the ability to count as being bigger and beefier for the power through. This really, really like shook itself out with the bull centaurs. You get them into something, can't quite clear it out. Sure, it's a bigger, scarier thing, but counting is having a higher amount of health characteristic for that power through command, and being able to get them out of something that's a little bit scarier than you initially thought. It's really saved the bacon of them bull centaurs. But then also the accursed devices, bringing back the war machine focused enhancement. That's really cool. I'm a newer player to Age of Sigmar, having started in 4th edition, but being able to play with these things, the war machine, the monstrous traits, it's really, really cool. The biggest standout being, well, honestly, all of them were decent. They all had their use purposes in different list compositions.
Which is huge, I think, and kind of the point. I think that's what they're looking for.
I admittedly read Overdrive Switch wrong for like the first 5 games I played it in. not realizing that it had to be targeting an enemy within 9 inches of the war machine. So definitely cheated on that rocket battery a couple games, not going that full 24 inches and just giving myself up. I'm hitting on threes now. Nope. I played that wrong and thankfully learned that and kind of played more with the greed pistons and being able to have that on my Dominator engines and charge them in a little bit better. Like played all versions of this army with all these rules. The only thing I didn't really play with were the Infernal cohort with the blades. I don't know.
No, not huge.
No, that didn't speak to me at all. It's kind of a cute thing, but the biggest glow up that I've experienced is the War Despot. Like in all the armies I play, no matter the faction, the War Despot going from I'm never going to use this model. I hate that I have so many of them from getting so many spearheads. This is bogus to now being like an auto include in every single one of my Hellsmiths lists because of the Soggy scroll. It is phenomenal. The move phase being able to get an infantry unit, specifically looking at the blunderbusses, being able to retreat them out and still have the ability to shoot is huge. Great for positioning. But then also the Saga Despot's passive of giving things counting as having DPP even when they don't. This really shines in the Army of Renown because you get spears, put them on objectives, and those spears you pump out give DPP to the Despot, which then is a whole fun little game of organizing, and I enjoy it. Organizing where you're putting and assigning demonic power points and when to
Just
move
get to
them
be a
around.
bureaucrat.
Yeah, you're an industrialist is what I prefer.
There you go.
But I'm very curious to see because I know Games Workshop kind of teased that they'll keep some of these Soggy rules. I'm hoping they keep the Soggy War Despot because, like I said, it went from being a nigh unplayable war scroll to one of my favorites.
More than anything we're saying this episode, I look forward to seeing what they keep, what new rules we run into, because there's no telling what new stuff we'll get, and what gets retired. And maybe some really cool stuff will get retired, and maybe some really cool stuff will stick around permanently and become part of it.
I definitely see the benefit of them retiring units, formations, rules, what have you, to kind of prevent rules bloat. Also, I mean, some of the stuff that doesn't get used, just putting that out to the side. Like I just mentioned, the Infernal cohort with blades. Like that could be gone. I won't bat an eye at it.
Speaking of things that don't get used a lot, I think I'm able to touch on two armies at the same time because I feel like neither of them had a meaningful addition to this, and that is going to be Maggotkin and Blades of Corn. I don't think either one of them had any real major adjustment from Ghyran done to them. Maggotkin, I didn't see a single Maggotkin player until their new book.
Same.
Didn't exist. Yeah. And so a few would float around every once in a while, and they might have some fly lists, they might have some prayer spam, but other than that, you just didn't see them.
Magican were kind of bad early, just due to the places of power providing, a direct counter to their already worse than Zinch battle trait.
Yeah.
But their book right now is very, very, very good.
Very good.
But yeah, the Soggy rules didn't really help them out much.
Blades were, and I think still are good. Again, they got their new book a little bit ago. Blades used to be absolutely crazy. I don't think Ghyran did much for them either. I think that what was added, you saw occasional use, but it didn't really change what you were going to do with the list. They had their setup. The Ghyran units didn't really mess with that much.
Something else I could touch on that wasn't used much were some of the Flesh Eater Soggy rules. But they had a good mix of didn't touch it and abused the hell out of it. I think both of the war scrolls were just bad timing. The book dropped, and all of your heroes had very specific delusions, but these old Soggy war scrolls didn't have any delusions. So they kind of were a bit hit or miss. Well, no, they were pretty much a miss. They had some cute things that they could do, but them being hero war scrolls that didn't have delusions really disincentivized you from putting them in a list. But one of the things that was very much in lists were the monstrous traits. They were phenomenal. These things, holy crap. They got put on every Terrorgeist and every Terrorgeist loved it. Yeah, it really showed the wackiness, the swinginess of some things like the monstrous traits. Again, like I touched on the War Machine traits being phenomenal in Hellsmiths, and now with Vec, their monstrous traits were also phenomenal. They really knocked it out of the park with these rules. Even now, they got points put on them. That's
Yeah.
kind of proof in the pudding of these things were strong. If you took a monster, like it really helped them perform. And not one of them was really bad. They were all solid.
Yeah, I think with you mentioning the point adjustments to those units, it made me think of cities, where I think cities has had a real tumultuous up and down in the last little bit, and cities was one of the most commented armies from everybody on the team as far as kind of its exploration through 4th edition and Ghyran of Zenestra starting with one thing being very broken, being nerfed into oblivion, more or less being useless, becoming very human centric, but also the great balance of the Cavaliers in that I saw both versions of Cavaliers, whether it was charge mortals on the charge or whether it was on a 3-up being able to charge in combat, even if you were in combat, so you got your charge bonuses. I saw both about equally, and that tells me that that balance is right and that it is flair for you and the type of army you want to make. It doesn't mean that the army has to be shaped to what rule you have. Same thing, cannoneers, like having cannons in there, doing fearless exemplars to get extra attacks on them, because as everybody knows, those cannons be whiffing. And so hitting on 4s and 2s, you would assume you're going to hit sometimes, but sometimes you just don't. But it made them good and stable and usable. So there was a lot of good stuff for cities out of this, and I think that, again, with our episode last week, we have yet to see how this all fleshes out with new book, and we won't know for a while yet as to what the difference really is. But I mean, Cosmopolitan Leader and Fearless Exemplar, the Cav difference, I think those are some big takeaways that they really benefited from and made them a really good list.
The Cannoneers also just made the cannons, and you rarely saw the cannons before. They kind of became a staple unit with that addition.
Yeah. And again, from Bram's talk last week, you always brought one.
Yeah. And you kind of touched on it, Zenestra just starting off way overpowered, the prayer being way overtuned to then being nerfed into oblivion and being nigh unplayable. Like it was wild. The cannons not being able to be tagged just from all the shenanigans. Like this was also bringing to the forefront that humans are now playable, and that's especially relevant with it's now a human centric army. Like they better be playable. I hope so. That's the only choice.
At this point, that's their whole thing.
That is
Something else that got a decent amount of responses from people were the Seraphon. Everybody's favorite dinosaurs, even though I feel like they didn't get a lot of general use. I feel like we're still waiting on that book, and I think it'll be absolutely crazy if the new books have taught us anything and the joy of dinosaurs is still there. But you played Seraphon, so what's your experience with them?
Yeah, the Seraphon, they've kind of had a rough go. The Soggy, it was good. They had some real good rules. Again, bringing back the monstrous traits. I seem to be touching on this on everything I can touch on. The monstrous traits,
Yeah.
awesome. Love them. It really meshed with the Scourge of Ghyran Carnosaur, the Soggy Carnosaur scroll. Like, that thing was so much fun to play. unfortunately, it didn't really bring them out of their rut. For being such a popular army, yeah, sure, you could argue more people playing, more inexperienced players playing the army brings down the win rate, but they've really not been having a go of it. Anything they seem to do, they seem to get punished for. Looking back at the changes to auxiliary units, it's Seraphon's fault, kind of, that the auxiliary units are now taxed from that spawn a Chotek spam.
Mhm.
But touching on the Soggy rules, the old blood on Carnosaur, that thing was a riot. You being able to give that old blood a unmodifiable save and just staying on a 4-up, charging that thing in there. Oh, so much fun to do. So much fun.
Yeah. An ethereal monster is awful.
It's great. I don't know what you're talking about.
Nobody wants to deal with that. I mentioned daughters earlier, and probably will continue to because they're, of course, incredibly competitive. And I think that, well, really, I think we can say that daughters, some of their differences came into play. I think I can't lump them into the same category that I did Maggotkin or Blades. They had some meaningful things that changed. Their prayers were pretty good. Saw them every once in a while. I think the biggest thing to mention, though, I think really the Bloodrack Shrine, the Soggy Bloodrack Shrine, and Soggy Cthulhu. Soggy Cthulhu, I think, was great. Again, being able to any priest that can just bank more points on any turn as a passive ability is huge, and Cthulhu brought that. Again, as soon as that came out, I didn't ever see a non-Soggy Cthulhu. If she was in the list, she was the Scourge Ghyran version, and that was it. You just never saw another version. And I guess, despite what I guess change on the meta, or just despite what change on the full game that may have made, I think that tells you enough about the change that it makes in the army. Is if you don't ever see the other version, it either means the other version is just bad or this one is just that much better. And again, whatever change it may have had to the overall wins or losses, it's tough to say. But I never saw the standard version of Cthulhu, and I don't even know what she did at that point. Like I don't know her actual abilities. So that to me says a lot about that. But I mean, they've always been competitive. As far as formations, Arena Veterans was always good. Having a 5-up ward until you act, even though it cost points, like that was big. It added a lot of survivability and let you kind of stay in the game a little bit longer when you're dealing with models with 1 hit point. So they had some really good changes. I think that Ghyran was a good impact on Doc. As far as ogres are concerned, I think I could sum it up with ogres have just always been good.
They have, yeah.
Yeah, despite people saying that either they're not or they need to be changed, or I think other than them looking like a army of dumb lumpy babies, they've always been good. I think that the Soggy stuff, I mean, their Iron Blaster, I think is like the best cannon in the entire game, and basically was an auto include in every list that I ever saw of ogres. But again, I think that a lot of people just don't think that they were a hugely used faction or that they were really competitive. But you saw Mawpath Menaces used every single time that you want to get them. You saw Mage Swallower used just about every time you went into them. And you saw an Iron Blaster every single time. And just like I said about Daughters, is that if it's more or less an auto include, or if you don't ever see the other version, that tells you that this thing is either way overtuned or just that fits the meta right then, and then just completely beats out the standard version.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw a non-Soggy Iron Blaster.
No reason to use it.
And then exactly what you said, the Maulpath Menaces, like that Burger Lust is so sweet. Like that is such a cool ability.
Being able to have that much control, completely obnoxious.
And like you said, I think they were always good. There was one player that kind of propped them up for the longest period of time, and it seems like only recently the rest of the Ogre players have kind of been adapting to the structure that he is put forward in list building. And yes, they got nerfed and then not too shortly after they got buffed. They can't seem to make up their mind what to do about ogres. I'm very excited to see what comes with these new models that have been leaked. And yeah, I'm like you said, big lumpy babies. They are some ancient models. That is for certain. So touching on another Soggy update that kind of morphed the army around it, Fire Slayers. We saw a huge boost in how frequently Magma Droth lists were played, and they really became the primarily competitive list.
Do you think that had to do with just monsters traits coming into play?
Well, more than anything, the Rune Sun on Magma Droth, caring about the Rune Father, the prayers also bolstering this. Like, you give the volcanic blood to a Magma Droth, you attack the Magma Droth, mortals get dumped on you. You bring a list with a ton of Magma Droths, oh boy, prayer your problems away, and you're chilling as a Magma Droth list. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it really morphed the way it played, and I mean, for a time they were actually very competitive with this Magma Droth heavy list. But yeah, it's that's I mean that's really it. That's really it. It was very Magma Droth focused. Very curious to see how things changed. There were, of course, like, and again, we're touching on the spam. You see Magma Droth spam, or you see the little naked babies with axes spam. Like,
Yeah.
it was one extreme or the other. There wasn't a very like cohesive putting the two halves of the army together. There wasn't really lists like that you saw, where it was a mix of foot guys and monsters. I'm very curious. I'm very excited to see how things go when they get their book and the changes that will come of it. More units, more variety of units. You know, it could only be kind of good things, really.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe they do things where monsters can move over infantry, over, friendly infantry or something. Like that changes entirely how those things work. I mean, it could be interesting to see if maybe perhaps a little game breaking, but hard to know. But while we're talking about dwarves, as opposed to naked babies, let's talk about flying armored babies. I I think some really nice units. I think the boat traits came in, even though it's not a Scourge of Ghyran thing. Again, I think falls into our category that I have repeated over and over again, is that these Scourge of Ghyran things just kind of got absorbed and soaked up in such big book changes. The KO book changes came out and just absolutely kind of quit people thinking about the Soggy part of it, because it changed fundamentally how the army played. It got rid of their weird, squirrely movement tactics, which of course I am very happy for. Many other people are happy for, but the KO players are not, because again, it completely changed how your army plays. And so with that, I mean, I think that it's tough to go bit by bit to talk about those different changes that they had, because of how big of a shift there was. I think that the boat device, the deal breaker battering ram, I think that was one of those things that you saw in. But otherwise, again, I think there was such a shift in the army when that book dropped that people kind of didn't think about the Soggy rules so much anymore. And just to keep from repeating myself so many times about this whole, as soon as the book came out, people started changing things. And I know this is a episode about the differences that Scourge of Ghyran made. I just can't bother thinking about that when it comes to, of course, the changes with 3 of these new things, with Tzeentch, Sylvaneth, and LRL. It's that, once again, I think that the Soggy Light of Eltharion had play in the beginning, but now I'm not seeing it used at all. Everyone is using the standard light just due to the teleport nonsense. And I think that more than anything, Tzeentch, Sylvaneth, and LRL, they may still be using those Soggy units, whether it's the Thaumaturge, whether it's the Carrick Acolytes, whether it's the Soggy version of those. But at this point, the army has shifted so much from what it was when those rules came out that I just don't think they can be meaningfully talked about anymore. And maybe I should have said this in the beginning and just covered like 6 armies at once that have gone through this exact same situation. But it's the same thing with like Drycha. Drycha is the teleport Drycha now, and that's it. Like, so you're just seeing a lot of big changes that things used to be used and relied upon for the army list to limit charges to change the game. But now that because the meta is so different and because the book has changed the army so much, it is a complete weird wash that you're dealing with right now.
I agree.
Excellent.
And to put a pretty little bow tie on everything, we've got 2 factions that we didn't really get a lot of response from our teammates on. And this was Hedonites of Slaanesh and Slaves to Darkness.
Also 2 armies we don't play.
Correct. Yeah. For Slaanesh, they saw the Invaders formation get a bit of play, combined with the Slangor Fiendbloods. That's a cute little interaction to where the Fiendbloods can go into like waiting in ambush in the deploy phase, then pop up in the backlines and get that sweet extra rend just for being outside of friendly territory. Cute little thing. I don't think I've ever run into it, but pretty neat. Then Slaves to Darkness, they had their Champions of Chaos battle formation that kind of promoted the Hero Hammer for a little bit there, which was neat. And I did run into a Soggy Abraxia at one of our GTs. She kind of wasn't on the battlefield too long.
No, maybe she was just freshly painted.
It's got to be what it was. Yeah, but
that's got to be it. So as we can clearly see from our perfect rundown of all these lists and armies, I think overall the biggest takeaway is that Scourge of Ghyran was, I think, a once again successful experiment that gave Age of Sigmar like a much needed boost, gave a lot of armies some new tech to try, good or bad, and whether or not it ended up working out or not is a whole different thing. But I think that the big takeaway is that we hope that more of these occur, more of these sorts of changes will come out in the future editions, and that we continue to see Games Workshop working towards making the game still thematic, neat, interesting to play, even for people that have been at it for a long time. But before we wrap this up, Tobin, let's do a tier list.
And you know I love a tier list. And this one was submitted to us from the wonderful Bram, our team captain.
So if you don't like it, blame him.
This is a Soggy tier list on how the traits, the war scrolls, the formations, etc., all have affected the armies.
Yeah, it's not a tier list of the army itself. It's a tier list of how much the Soggy rules affected the army.
Right, how much it propped them up.
Yes, 100%. So again, not a tier list on is the army good or bad. That's not what we're here to talk about.
That's right, it's how good the Soggy rules were. But yeah, so starting with S, Skaven.
Cities, A tier.
Fireslayers.
Hellsmiths.
Deepkin.
Bone Reapers.
Sylvaneth.
Stormcast.
Hedonites of Slaanesh.
Perfect. B tier.
Daughters of Cain.
KO.
Lumineth Realm Lords.
Ogres.
Slaves to Darkness.
C tier.
Blades of Corn.
Flesh Eaters.
Magakin of Nurgle.
Night Haunt.
Ironjaws.
Dinosaurs.
Cruel Boys. Now to the not so excellent D tier. Gloomspite Gits.
Sons of Behemoth.
All right, bringing up the bottom of the pack. Hit us, Dave.
F tier. Soulblight.
And that has concluded Bram's tier list.
That's right. Make sure if you have any issues with this that you comment directly towards him on our podcast or YouTube. But with that, Tobin, we've taken up enough of these sweet people's time and bored them to death with our thoughts, as perfect as they may be, about Ghyran. And once again, I hope that we see something cool in the future. I really hope, more than anything, the new GHB, the new rules come out are straightforward, hopefully not nearly as confusing as some of these books. Otherwise, we're going to need PhDs to play this game. But I really hope that we see continued engagement in the game developers to make this sport as competitive and fun as it can be. But thank you everybody for joining us here on episode 3 of Reavercast, with us going over the Scourge of Ghyran changes, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Bye everybody.